Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we break down big company secrets and sometimes find out they just bought a bunch of other companies. HealthCare's latest report is out and it dives deep into their business. We're talking about how they're making money, what risks they're facing, and who's in charge. Let's see what the numbers tell us if you're interested in understanding the real story behind financial documents. Make sure you're subscribed. And hey, if you want to chat about these reports and get more insights, join our Discord community linked in the description below. Healthcare, a big name in medical technology, focuses on making advanced medical tools, diagnostic agents for medicine, and smart software. Think of them as a company trying to make healthcare more precise and accessible everywhere. They've been around for a long time, close to 130 years, and are looking to the future with innovations in medicine. They operate all over the world, serving hospitals and researchers in about 160 countries. And guess what? They've got a whopping 54,000 employees dedicated to this mission. Let's dive into the numbers, because that's where the real story unfolds. They've got a decent stock performance, and their financials show revenues have grown. In 2025, their total revenues hit $20.6 billion, a good jump from $19.7 billion in 2024. That's nearly a 5% increase. A big chunk of that revenue comes from selling their products, which raked in $13.7 billion in 2025. Their services also brought in a healthy $7 billion. Looking at their business segments, imaging is their biggest moneymaker, bringing in $9.2 billion in 2025. That's up 4.4% from the year before. Then Therese Advanced Visualization Solutions, or AVS, which generated $5.4 billion. That's also growing, up 4.3%. Patient Care Solutions, or PCs, the segment that deals with monitoring and life support, saw a slight dip. Revenues were $3.1 billion, down 1.2%. They're saying this is mostly due to lower sales in life support solutions. But Pharmaceutical Diagnostics, or PDX, which handles imaging agents, is booming. Their revenues jumped a massive 15.6% to $2.9 billion. A big part of that growth came from buying a company called Ion Mighty Physics. Regionally, the US and Canada are still their strongest market, bringing in $9.5 billion, a 6.1% increase. Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, or EAA, also showed strong growth. However, China is a bit of a worry. Revenues there dropped 4.6% to $2.3 billion. They're seeing declines in imaging, AVs, and PCs in China, though PDX is still doing well there. Now let's talk about profit. For 2025, their operating income was $2.8 billion, up from $2.6 billion in 2024. That is a small but positive trend. And after all the costs and taxes, their net income attributable to Healthcare was just over $2 billion. That is up from $2 billion last year, so they're holding steady on profits. They also use something called adjusted EBIT, which is a way to strip out certain expenses to see the core business performance. That number was $3.2 billion in 2025, a slight decrease from 2024. When it comes to cash, free cash flow was about $1.5 billion in 2025. That is a little lower than the $1.6 billion they generated in 2024. This means they had a bit less cash on hand after covering their operational and investment expenses. Debt is always a big topic. As of the end of 2025, Healthcare had $10 billion in borrowings. They did take on more debt in 2025, issuing new notes, but they also paid down some of their existing debt. This shows they're managing their debt load, but it's a significant amount. Looking ahead, they've got some big plans. In November 2025, they announced they plan to buy Intelerad for $2.3 billion. Intelerad is a software company that helps with medical imaging, sort of like a digital assistant for radiologists. This move shows Healthcare is serious about expanding its software and cloud offerings. They also acquired Icometrics, a company that uses AI to analyze brain scans, and Ion Mighty Physics, a Japanese maker of special imaging agents. These are strategic moves to strengthen their core businesses, especially in imaging and pharma diagnostics. Of course, it's not all smooth sailing. Healthcare operates in a heavily regulated industry. They face risks from government rules, healthcare laws changing, and international trade policies. Things like import tariffs, especially between the US and China, have already impacted their profits, and they expect that to continue. Cybersecurity is a huge concern for them, and rightfully so. With so much sensitive patient data involved, any breach could be disastrous. They're investing in security, but admit that new threats are always popping up. On the leadership side, we see quite a few executive changes and new hires in 2025, especially in key roles like President and CEO of Patient Care Solutions and President and CEO of Imaging. They also discussed their share-based share-based compensation, like stock options and restricted stock units, which is pretty standard for large corporations. They are involved in some significant legal proceedings, including a case related to contracts with the Iraqi Ministry of Health. While this case is old, it's still going through the legal system and could potentially have an impact. GA Healthcare is a solid, established player in the healthcare technology market. They're growing their revenue, especially in key areas like imaging and diagnostics, and they're making smart acquisitions to boost their software and AI capabilities. However, they are not without their challenges. Those tariffs are a real headwind, and the situation in China could continue to pose problems. Managing their debt is crucial, and the increasing complexity of regulations, especially around data privacy and the new AI wave, demands constant attention. The fact that they're actively buying up companies in AI and software shows they're adapting to the changing landscape, which is a good sign. It will be interesting to see how the Intelerad acquisition plays out. Overall, GA Healthcare seems to be navigating a complex market with a clear strategy. They're investing in future growth areas while trying to manage the risks that come with a global business in a highly regulated industry. Alright, that is our breakdown of GA Healthcare's latest filing. What is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching, see you next time.